Hello and welcome. My name's Lara. I am the host of the ADHD Family Summit, and I'm really excited to introduce you to this beautiful human. Her name is Maggie Chiu. She wears many hats. She's multi-talented. She is a social worker working on her doctorate of social work. She is a nutritionist. She trains and supports bodybuilders. She's also a bodybuilder herself. Like, there's so many talents. And we're going to have a fabulous conversation on how you can get beneath your child's behavior and get to the basics to really support them. Welcome, Maggie. I'm so glad you're here.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, again, my name is Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm based out in Kansas City. The majority of my work these days is with additional athletes and also clients that are kind of in lifestyle that are working through their own nutrition and fitness journeys. And so I am never a replacement for therapy, although I am a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed therapist myself. My role is more so there as a bridge to kind of gap some of those services that may not necessarily intersect mental health and nutrition.
Okay, beautiful. And that mental health and nutrition piece is really valuable and it's a great place to start. I don't even know where to begin. Like, I'm so excited to talk to you. There's so many things to talk about, but I'm going to give you an example of something that a child with ADHD may be doing, a typical reaction. And then I want you to give, if you can, give me some advice on where we can rewind and do to change things and support things. So here's an example I'm sure many parents can relate to. You're rushing out the door. Maybe you're on your way to dance practice or karate or whatever it is. Your child realizes that they don't have the equipment they need. Maybe you were supposed to wash it and you didn't. And they scream at you and they say, like, you're making me late. This is all your fault. I hate you. And a typical reaction, like, your child just screamed at you. They were rude. They said, I hate you. So a parent may, and I've been there, may want to say, like, don't you speak to me that way. Like, I'm your mother. You need to respect me. Um, and what we're doing is we're looking at the behavior, the words the child is saying at the behavior. But we want to get deeper than behavior. We want to get to the root of what's going on. So I'd like to ask you, in that scenario, could we be looking at instead of that tip of the iceberg behavior?
Yeah. So if we're looking at nutrition and fitness, right, and especially when a child explodes in that type of anger, and you as the parent or you as the caregiver is left with like, whoa, 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 what just happened? That behavior doesn't make sense. It's not equal to what actually caused the issue, right? And so what I often say is I got to go back to nervous system regulation. And for ADHD kiddos, for neurodivergent kiddos in general, the nervous system is very much, there is a lot of sensitivity that happens with neurodivergent kiddos, which includes the gut brain axis. And so I will quickly share that approximately 90% of those with neurodivergence have a gut disorder and they don't
Mm.
realize it. That is a staggering amount of people, right? And if we're looking at research into why that is, again, that goes back to the fact that it's because those with ND have just heightened nervous systems, right? And if we're looking at dopamine and how some of those chemicals are being released, the majority of our dopamine is actually made in our gut. It's not made in our brain. And so what does that mean? How we're feeding ourselves is directly correlated to that output of behavior. So, for neurodivergent children, especially, when it comes to nervous system dysregulation, that's going to look more like a state of fight or flight. And if I'm going back down to the belly, if you're eating foods that aren't meant for your belly, and when I say like gut friendly, I'm not talking about listening to what other people are calling as gut friendly. I'm saying what is gut friendly to you. That's going to kind of require a little bit of, testing and trialing and pulling out what's going on, right? But because ND directly affects how the nervous system communicates with your gut, these children that are developing gut symptoms without realizing that they're actually tied to it's tied to regulation instead, and it's not just behavioral, right? So if you're supporting the gut, then you're supporting your child's nervous system.
Okay. So we're going to rewind to before that outbreak even happened and look at how we can support the gut. And this is such an important place to start is the nutrition, the supplements, like what's going into their bodies. I often tell parents, like, if we can start their day with good quality protein rather than like a sugary cereal oatmeal, because then their sugar is going to crash and the behavior that we see comes out then. You said we need to support the gut based on their individual body. So where would we start with that? How do we know?
That can be such a loaded question, right? Because that can feel already so overwhelming of like, what do I need to take out or what do I need to add in? But it's not necessarily about doing all of it all at once, right? It's really just about connecting some of those small, consistent habits that can really fit into your daily life. So, like you'd mentioned, starting off with a high protein breakfast is wonderful. So, parents can definitely start by focusing on more balanced meals, right? Like you said, adding more protein into their meals, including complex carbs, focusing on colors on their plate, fruits and vegetables, and then also cutting back on some of the ultra processed foods that we know may affect your child's belly. So, like I said, you don't have to do everything, but start with one change at a time. And then when it comes to movement, again, back to basics. So, what we want to do is we want to start on movement that your child likes, right? So, is that jumping on the trampoline? Is that going out and playing tag with their friends? Is it dancing? Whatever that may be. So, exercise is going to help regulate the nervous system and also support that digestion. So, it's kind of like a double, killing two birds with one stone type of thing. So, my last tip I would say is really just focusing on like a rhythm and regulation of some sort. We know that with kiddos that are neurodivergent is really helpful. Routine is super, super helpful. So making sure that they're getting enough sleep, enough downtime after being stimulated, creating some of that safety and consistency throughout in their life is going to really help calm that nervous system as well. And that's going to allow the gut to do a better job if your nervous system is regulated.
Okay, there were so many powerful tidbits in there. I wish I was writing everything down. But what I was hearing, like, take baby steps. And many of us parents also are neurodivergent. We're raising neurodivergent children. We're also neurodivergent ourselves. And you're right, it can feel overwhelming. Like, oh, where do I start with this gut thing? Like, that feels like, where do I begin? I can't look inside my gut. Like, I have no idea. So, baby steps. And what I'm hearing is like adding colorful vegetables on your plate, adding more protein, being mindful of how processed things are. And like, maybe can you swap something out? And then with the exercise, this is really important, right? Like, encouraging what your child already loves. Sometimes it's hard for them to get going, but if it's already something they love, that's really helpful. And does it matter what time of day the exercise happens or how much or
I would say listen to your kiddo's cues, right? If there is a moment of hyperactivity, use that and hack it. Hack that ADHD. Send them outside. Have them run it off. If they're already overstimulated, tired, and grumpy, is it going to be helpful to then add additional stress, add additional external stimulation back onto them? Probably not. So similar to how you and I are going to function, understanding what our boundaries look like, what safety looks like in our body, that's going to be the most helpful. And going back to what you were saying about like, how do we kind of know what it is that affects us? I highly recommend getting with a registered dietitian if the idea here is really figuring out an elimination and reintroduction diet for your kiddo. But what we can start by doing first is just keeping like a detailed food and symptom journal, tracking what your kiddo eats, seeing what is changing within their digestion, how their energy, how their focus, how their mood changes with foods, and making sure that you're simplifying your meals, limiting it to more of so like one ingredient type of food so that tracking is just a little bit easier on you as a parent.
that's really helpful. Anything to make it
Mm.
easier is so helpful. And then with the exercise, with that feeling of safety and a regulated nervous system, that allows the gut to do its job better, right? If you're feeling always in this stress, this fight, flight, or freeze, the gut can't do its job in the digesting, right? Is that
No, that's absolutely right.
yeah?
Yeah, I know it sounds really hocus pocus, really granola, but if you're taking a look at what the nervous system truly does, and if you're looking back, like you were saying, a lot of our parents are neurodivergent. I am neurodivergent as well. I have ADHD and autism. I do not function very well when I have been overstimulated, when I've packed on way too much, and I can feel it in my gut. There's something that I call an ND belly, the neurodivergent belly, which is this like hyperextended, bloated belly that just makes you feel awful. It makes you feel low, your mood is low, you're a bit dysthymic, right? Your energy is gone, you're irritable. That is all interconnected.
I'm just going to invite everybody right now as we're talking about this, just to take a few mindful breaths. Drop your jaw, drop your tongue, like give your brain that signal that it's safe to rest and digest. Let out like a long, slow exhale, audible, like have fun with it. And as you're taking some deep breaths, let your belly move in and out against your vagus nerve, again, signaling it's safe to rest and digest. And as a caregiver, we want you to do this too, because it's easier to support your children in regulating their nervous system if you're able to regulate yourself first.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
What about probiotics? Is that a good place to start to just bring in probiotics?
It very much could be. This is again one of those loaded questions because it definitely depends on your kiddo's microbiome and what's going on right now. Typically, you can get natural probiotics through yogurt, kimchi, other things that are fermented, right?
Okay.
I don't necessarily suggest a probiotic until we have already utilized some of the whole food options before we start to supplement, because why would we supplement without actually doing the basics first?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great because I know on Facebook, on Instagram, there's all these ads right now, but all kinds of different vitamins for ADHD, and you look at it, and it looks really good, and the advertisements are great. But if we can start with the whole food first, and working with a dietitian, a nutritionist, a naturopath, somebody who's going to, look at your child as an individual.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you work with people online?
I do. All of my work is online.
Perfect.
The majority of my work is with adults. However, I started in child and adolescent psychotherapy.
Okay. And yeah, and if you're here because you have kids, you're an adult too who could use that support first, right? Like often that's where I tell parents to begin before they start jumping in to support their kids. Like take a little bit of time to support themselves first, because if
Yeah.
you want to improve your child's nutrition and exercise and everything, are you doing that for you? Are you drinking your water? Are you getting your exercise? Are you being mindful of what you eat? Or are you just eating the leftovers from their plate or grabbing fast food or standing at the counter shoving food in while, doing all the other things? Which reminds me, like that can even be really helpful, is just eating your food slowly and mindfully.
Yep, absolutely. Taking kind of slow, intentional bites to actually fully allow your food to digest. This is kind of, again, one of those like bizarre facts. You actually have to chew your food about 20 to 30 times before swallowing. That's a lot of time, but that's also a really wonderful time to practice some of that intention. And a lot of us are just kind of running on autopilot these days, right? Especially if we have multiple children that we're just trying to keep track of, and we're just like in the survival mode, right? So the more that we're able to go back to safety, back to that self compassion, back to that practicing of mindful moments, focusing on what does that texture feel like? What color is this? What am I tasting? What's the temperature? Just allowing yourself a moment of grounding is enough to be able to kind of dry out your sponge just a little bit.
I love that. And I can see how you could have fun with this too with your kids at the dinner table. Like everybody take a bite of the brightest colored food, and how many times can you chew it? Who can chew it the most? Like you can have some
Yeah.
fun with it. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I will say my Instagram is probably the best way to reach out. You guys are all welcome to DM me. My Instagram is filled with a lot of free content. It's a lot of psychoeducation. There's oftentimes worksheets that I just give out freely. And that is just meant for those that are kind of viewing my page there.
Amazing. And I will put the link for that above and below in both places. What is your Instagram handle?
It's Maggie, Maggie, lives, Lives, because I am out here living.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Now, if you could offer parents, just because we talked about a lot of things, we talked about movement and nutrition and mindfulness. For parents who are looking for ease, what's the first thing that they could try?
Mm. I'm going to say compassion. Let's go back to compassion because I think it can be so easy to blame ourselves as parents, to blame our kiddos for acting out. But if we can flip the language just a little bit, it allows us then to almost negate some of that self talk that we're constantly repeating in our head without even realizing it. And when we're expelling it out, that ends up just creating an environment where you can connect with your child and where you can connect with yourself too.
That's beautiful. And if we take it to that scenario at the beginning with that child yelling and screaming, and I hate yous, you could take a deep breath, connect to compassion, and get curious too. Like, I wonder what's going on for them. I wonder if they're hungry. I wonder if, did they eat something with red food coloring? I wonder if they got enough sleep. I wonder if they're feeling really nervous because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble if they don't have blah, blah, blah. Right. So that giving yourself compassion, giving your child compassion, taking some mindful breaths, getting curious. And then when we know better, we can do better.
Exactly.
Maggie, I'm grateful I have found you. I was just looking on Instagram and you popped up and I was like, well, she looks interesting. Like social work and nutrition. Like this is beautiful. This is what we need. This is what I love. With supporting ADHD is mixing all sorts of different, because it's not
Yeah.
it's not swallow the pill and there you go. Like there's lots of different modalities that we need to bring together. So you are such a beautiful person. You are so generous. And I'm so grateful that you're a part of the ADHD village now. We have a saying in the village, find your people, love them hard. And I'm really, truly grateful that I found you.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot, and I had a wonderful time talking with you today.
You as well. And thank you, parents, for watching. Please go into the ADHD Village Facebook group, look for Maggie's thread. Let us know what you found helpful from this discussion. What will your first baby step be? Let us know. And when you share that in the Facebook group, it will inspire others as well to take their first baby step. So I'll see you in the village. Thanks so much, Maggie.